Welcome, everybody, to an episode of Brain Milk, the podcast from the Halfway Post. I'm Dash MacIntyre. Adrian, Polk, you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Anything you want to say? It's been a while since we talked last.
Yeah, I think since July, so it has been a
Yeah.
while. The world's changed quite a bit. This country's
Yeah.
changed a little bit.
Yeah, for real. I want to start off with the news of the White House, and I personally am finding it hard to kind of care about. What are your thoughts on the demolition of the East Wing? And I guess he's renovating the bunker. Maybe he's planning on using that bunker, with the kind of military invasions he's planning for the midterms. But what do you think about all this White House demolishment?
I mean, on the one hand, like it's hard to care that much about like a public building. I mean, it's just a White House, so like I think like having it be forever the same thing. I mean, that doesn't really. I don't care about that. But like that being said, it's a public building and like it's the people's house, and like doing without even talking about it's kind of arbitrary. And then lying about the whole, oh, we're not going to
Yeah.
touch the East Wing, and then it's like, oh yeah, we're going to knock it all down.
Yeah, we're gonna demolish the whole thing.
But
Yeah.
like, and then like the I don't I don't know how many balls happen at the White House. This like obviously is not something I really think about, but like having a ball room instead of like offices with people who do stuff for people, that
Yeah,
seems
right.
strange. Like having an event center at the White House. I
Yeah.
think it's
It's not the
I
best
think
use of taxpayer money to just host parties for Donald Trump
yeah.
to like be the maitre d' or whatever.
Well, another problem I have with it is just that, like, why is public money not, it's like a public building, it's the people's house. Why is public money not paying for it? And like the idea that, like, oh, it's okay, we'll get like private donor money to pay for it. And it's like that doesn't actually make it sound like better to me. And it's like, okay, so you're going to ask $300 million from like donors, and then there's not going to be a quid pro quo at all. Like all
Yeah.
those
Yeah, these
businesses invest. Yeah,
Apple and Microsoft and all these companies in the video, they're like probably donating just millions of dollars. There's
well,
nothing on the back end coming for them.
yeah, so that part makes no sense. But then, like, I mean, I guess it's like on the other hand, it's like kind of good that the people aren't paying for this. But I don't know. It's so obviously unethical. The
No, but
president
they
should.
are. They are paying for it because it's like, okay, Trump is apparently getting the money to build it, but like, what about maintaining it for the rest of eternity, right? Like, how many millions of
Yeah,
dollars will it be for maintenance of the buildings, for the power, for like the staff that has to like serve and clean up the giant balls that Trump's gonna host? Do you think he's just trying to bring Mar-a-Lago to the White House, and now the White House will be filled with all of the kind of like revelers at Mar-a-Lago, the kind of Mar-a-Lago faced women? And all of the kind of like the brown nosing hangers on.
well, it'll definitely be filled with those, the hanger on or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many events actually happen at the White House. So like, I don't have any idea on that at all. So I don't know. Do you have any insight? Like, how many events they even plan to have in the ballroom?
Well, knowing Trump, that's really all he wants to do. Like he doesn't want the responsibility parts of being president. He likes all the ceremonial stuff where everyone just sucks up to him and give them gifts. So I imagine there's gonna be a lot more sucking up and gift giving here at his balls.
Yeah, yeah.
I
More
saw someone had a
opportunities to
good
get
point.
gold bars.
Yeah.
Gold.
I saw somebody had a good point where it's like, were there a lot of trucks like moving everything out of that building? Like, where did all the stuff go? Did they take everything out, like all the art and everything? Or did he just demolish it? Like, how much, I'm curious how much, of like the building was salvaged.
I have no idea. Again, because I don't actually care about
Yeah.
public building. I have
Well,
a
yeah. Because
very
somebody
surface
mentioned on
level
Twitter,
opinion.
I saw on Twitter somebody mentioned that like Trump, like with the previous buildings in New York that he demolished, like he like destroyed a bunch of kind of priceless pieces of like artwork of like Art Deco because he didn't want to take the time or the expense to like save it. So he just kind of smashed it all and just destroyed the building faster than he was supposed to, I think.
That's kind of weird.
Well, it's
Like,
Donald Trump.
like once you get everything like set up and
Mhm.
people organized and like the dump trucks coming and like the wrecking ball, you think you'd have some time to just take some stuff out. I would also think it'd have resale value, like, sending to like, I don't know, another building might pay for it. Trump's kind of
Is
a
it a good
showman.
thing though? Is it a good thing though that Trump wasn't hawking pieces of the White House to like raise money for his
Oh,
for his,
yeah.
his third presidential term in 2028?
Yeah. Official portraits of presidents and stuff. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Just just sells the Obama one, gets it out of DC. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Trump's like? You think it's like he's on borrowed time and he knows he's going to die soon, and he's just trying to like go as fast as possible to have some kind of mark on DC?
Possibly. Like if no, it'll
Fingers
get the Mount
crossed.
Rushmore. I think the other thing is weird is like people have talked about how like it's odd that like any individual president who's only going to be there for 3 more years would want to build a giant building that's probably not even going to be done till his last year, if that. And it's like, does that mean he's planning to use it a lot? Like, is he thinking like, oh, I'm so glad for my successors who get to use this beautiful ballroom that I spent 3.5 years watching be made, and
Yeah.
annoying people while I was working and stuff. I don't know. That's
Well, Trump's probably pissed he can't somehow bring like all the pieces of the East Wing to like his presidential library, like he is doing with the plane. Where like ostensibly it's for all future presidents to use. Oh, but I'm taking it and it's going to be like willed to my private library.
well, it'd be like unilaterally like taking down the Lincoln Memorial and being like, well, we're done with it. We might as well put it in my presidential library.
Yeah.
Why don't we swap out the person in it?
Right. Yeah. Any last thoughts on the White House? I mean, I kind of don't care. And I think it's kind of a distraction of liberals getting upset about that when they should still be just upset and like constantly bringing up the Epstein files, right? Like, isn't that kind of like the stay on target mentality? The thing that like really makes Trump unpopular and is like just really cringily embarrassing and just obvious that they are, holding off on releasing those files for as long as possible.
Well, I mean, that's a good point, and it is a distraction, but I don't know. Like having lived on the East Coast for 10 years and like being up and down the Eastern Seaboard with all the old cities, like I don't know how much you've seen, like a lot of people actually care a lot about old buildings. Like when we lived in Philly, there's all kinds of like old buildings in historic registers and stuff, whether it's the city level, the state level, and the federal level. And apparently people care a lot about them because people complain and protest whenever they want to knock down some like 100-year-old building that's like rotting from the inside out. And they're like, oh, it has to be, we have to preserve the cultural legacy of the city and stuff. So I understand why people care about it. Uh, as far as being a distraction, I don't know. I think sometimes like literally Trump does 10,000 distractions a day, and like probably not every one of them is a distraction against, to
Not
highlight the
intentionally, at
Epstein
least.
stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some of them, they're not
Yeah.
seating the congresswoman. who,
Now I've seen some people saying that like the next president, the next Democrat should just knock down this ballroom and put the East Wing back the way it was. And I think at a certain point, like, is that just really wasteful spending? We're gonna like
kind of
knock down this
petty.
brand new building and then make it smaller. And I guess I don't know. You have a good point though. Like for like a public bureaucracy, like you would hope that like there would be a lot of office buildings for people to do like the people's work instead of just all of these executive branch people just kind of uh, patting themselves on the back and big galas they're going to obviously hold there.
hmm Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I've exhausted all my opinions on it.
Okay. um, let's see. I had this idea. This is from an Ezra Klein podcast that they were bringing up this point of like, conservatives are so mad and they have so much rage and they hate Democrats so much to the point where like all of these farmers who are having their livelihoods like straight up ruined by Trump and like these tariffs and the dumb trade warring and like the bailout of Argentina that's like, selling all the beef that's out competing our beef exporters. But like, what do you think it is that conservatives are mad at? Like, why are they so mad that, like, from my perspective, they're just kind of voting against their own interests, especially if you live in a rural area, right? Like, Republicans are not really doing anything for you. 75%, of people on Obamacare getting these subsidies that are about to run out are living in states that Trump won. Like, I just feel like, what do you think Republicans are so mad about that like their lives are kind of crumbling and they're just voting out of rage in a way that like sometimes you can mistake for like racism or xenophobia or sexism of like the Democratic candidates.
Well, I don't know. I guess I would push back on some of the framing, like they're just enraged at life in general. I think I think a lot of people tend to think in terms of like, well, X is happening. It's bad for their pocketbook or their industry that they're in. And I don't think people necessarily care exclusively for their economic interests. They could also be like ignorant of what's going on and how it affects them. They could just be wrong, right? Like a lot of people have ideas about the Federal Reserve, minimum wage, like housing control on the left. There's a lot of economic ideas people have that they're just wrong about. So in that way, I think I think it's odd because a lot of people, like when you have the urban rural divide, like the people who live in rural places and like hate on what they see as like liberal culture, they're like mocking like LA. and New York City, and there's a lot of other big cities that are very liberal that are completely different. There's also suburbs which are very purple. So like I think I don't know. I guess I would just push back on some of the framing that they're just angry at something they can't describe. Obviously, some of them like hate immigration, even if it doesn't affect them directly in their community. And like we were talking earlier, like even if it would help their community, like you have a big city with tens of thousands of empty homes that no one lives in, like bringing in a couple thousand immigrants would actually improve that. They would buy old houses, they would fix them up, they would start businesses, they would go to businesses and spend money,
Yeah,
they would have jobs. Like,
I guess I didn't explain, but I was talking more of like just the rage of just like the liberal tears kind of mindset, the fuck your feelings, like the MAGA, like go back to where you came from, build the wall, like everything is just so anti like another group of people, and to the point where like as their lives are falling apart, they're just like kind of scapegoating. Whether it's immigrants or like all the Mexican neighbors or whatever, Muslims, like where do you think that is sustained, especially now, like we're in the second Trump term and Trump's like screwing over the farmers, screwing over all like the beef companies, like big banks are making record profits, healthcare companies, record profits. Everyone's making record profits while like inflation's going up. These tariffs and trade wars are just fucking up everything. And like ruining more people's livelihoods and making like all the stated goals of like manufacturing coming back impossible because no one's going to build a factory here because they can't, forecast 3 months out, let alone 4 years that it takes to build some like giant chip factory or battery factory.
well,
But
I've got
I mean, maybe it's just too. Maybe I'm just being too like abstract and big about it. But
no, I mean, in some ways, I think that's fine. But like in an abstract way too, I think, and I've heard quite a couple people talk about this, but and this is something I've been pushing in my own head and talking to Katie about. But like the idea that a lot of those people look back at a bygone era. That's what I read. Oh, they're like reminiscing about the 1950s, whatever. Okay, so there's a lot of baggage with that, but I think to a large extent that like the society that they think of as great from like 1945 to like 1970, right, is such a great era. One, there was high taxation. There was the beginning of the regulatory state as we know it. So things were changing for the better in a progressive way, in a way that progressives back then would have, thought it was progressive. But I just have I have a long-standing idea I've been thinking about is just like society as a whole generally goes back to a norm. And like, for example, the norm is that like the middle class isn't actually that big, and over time they actually lose money. And there's a lot of economic things that I think just happen that push it down. So like, for example, if you were to raise minimum wage or double minimum wage, what would happen? Well, tomorrow everyone renting a house would just tack on 500 extra dollars. You know what I mean? And so like I think that there is a regression back to a mean, and without actual effective progressive government regulation actively pushing against that, as you saw in the late 1940s, 50s, and 60s, up until the Reagan era. Like that was the thing that created the lifestyle that people look back at and think was so great. And if you don't understand that push and pull between the regulations and concern for your fellow human and fellow citizen and raising minimum wage and the idea that everyone should own a house, like that is a very specific idea with specific policies that they were actually doing for a 15-year time period. And then we spent 50 years pushing back against that, and now we're just regressing back to the mean. It's like
yeah,
anything. Like if you put rent control, like all houses will probably get worse. Anyone renting out is not going to put money into them. It's just a fact. So like that's a bad idea. But so is getting rid of all the regulations. It's like obviously not all
yeah,
regulations are good, but not all regulations are bad either. And like just like cutting some regulations is good, cutting all regulations is a terrible idea. And it's like I think both sides, and specifically to your point about the right now, that cultural kind of hatred for everything that is different or they perceive as changing the country. I don't know. That's a very I just got distracted and lost my train of thought, but do you have any thoughts on that?
no, no, like I like the idea. I think about that in terms of like the government in the 40s, 50s, and 60s really like engineering the kind of like society that led to a middle class. Like obviously a lot of it had to do with the New Deal and then the GI Bill, and basically you had like millions of Americans that went to war or did some kind of service and then came back, and then they were able to start a family and get a new home in suburb. They were like massively funded by the government. They got the GI Bill, so free education. Like, if you talk about like the democratic socialism, though a lot of Democrats kind of like kind of head toward and their policy aims, it's kind of exactly like that of just giving an entire generation of people like cheap house, free education, and bam, great life, giant middle class. Everyone's happy. You have this golden age of like baby boomer childhoods that like they grow up and just America's, everyone's not everyone, but like the middle class is unnaturally and ahistorically large. But I had an idea too, because I saw this recently. I was talking about taxes and how like everyone always says, like, oh, not everybody pays taxes anyway. So if you raise the taxes, people still aren't going to pay it. And then like people will bring up, oh, what about the 40s when we had like what was it, like a 89 or 91% top marginal tax rate that peaked like sometime in the 40s and 50s, right? And that's kind of what led to that giant middle class because. Well, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, but like the idea that people say, well, don't have a tax again that high because people won't pay for it. They'll figure out other ways to not have to pay that tax. And I agree with that. And I think in the 40s and 50s, to avoid paying high taxes that was so high, like all these companies, invested a lot more in factories. They had way more manufacturer growth. They hired more people. They kept it in the community. People got raises. They had pensions and all of these benefits that Americans don't get anymore. What person our age is really going to get a pension anymore, right? From a company that is like in your local community that pays like everybody to have a good standard of living in the entire city. Like that is a thing of the past. But the idea
Yeah.
that like when you have that high tax rate, the companies are forced to not pay that taxes. They have to invest it in the people and the companies and growth.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. The tax rates used to be higher. One thing I think about sometimes is that I think, and maybe you can push back on this, but like everyone talks about manufacturing, and I think like it is such a bygone concern for a bygone era. Like for
Well,
example, if we
certainly
were
in
to like,
America, that it's such a service economy now, and everything's so digital, and
yeah, I mean,
our
like
our
really,
money comes from money essentially.
yeah, like people act like, oh, manufacturing jobs are zero sum. If we don't have manufacturing jobs, we have no jobs. And that's like literally not
Mhm.
true. We have millions and millions of unfilled jobs that aren't manufacturing jobs, but they're still jobs. So like that being said, there's a lot of reasons why people care about it: national security, resources, food, all that stuff. That's important. But back to the earlier point, um, like I think it's just a difference in society, and a cultural difference too. Like the idea that like you don't have publicly traded companies that give pensions to any of their workers. Like, yeah, that's gone. So the other thing is like job security. People in business history talk about South Korea and Japan and Taiwan, and the idea that you just join a company, like they're going to treat you right until you retire with
Yeah,
them. And
right.
that wasn't 100% in America in the 60s and 70s, but it was much more closer to a normal than it is now, and probably more than it ever will be without like some serious cultural change. The other thing too is like even well, I would say another big difference, and I think this is kind of funny. Like I saw a case study of uh of all things accounting. So like it's about like long story short, some of the car companies used to give all their workers like healthcare. And then that was easy to do in the 40s and 50s when you got cancer and died and there was nothing they could do for you. But now in the 70s, 80s, and going into the 90s, all these car companies are paying everyone's healthcare, and they're like, "Oh shit, we can't afford this." So then they like, had to stop. But that right there is a great example. And what I mean by healthcare, I mean is they were actually paying pensions to their workers and healthcare after you retired. So if you worked for like 40 years for Ford or like GM, they were giving you a pension, and you probably had stock options, which is great, and they were paying your healthcare, unrelated to Medicare and Medicaid. And so like, that's a huge benefit that people used to get and would rely on and expect to some degree, but you're just never like no publicly
Yeah,
traded
right.
company is going to give people who retired from the
Yeah,
company
and the
healthcare.
shareholders would rebel and kick you out if you were the
Yeah.
CEO trying to do that. Now, like
Yeah.
that's not fiduciarily responsive to the shareholders.
But then I think like even like whether it's Obama, Biden, Trump, like a lot of the things, I think, okay, you're going to do this populist idea. It's going to make life better for people. And like it will on the margins, and it will for a short period of time. But like all this stuff goes back to a mean. Like, for example, if you put in like, if somehow magically the government passed a regulation that said everybody gets $4 extra an hour, whatever you're paid, $4 extra an hour, like every grocery store would just increase their prices. The next time a restaurant updated their menu, they would up their prices by a quarter or 10%, 20%, whatever. And so over time, obviously you go back to that mean, which is just like, the average person being an average middle class person and struggling to get ahead. And for example, like Thomas Piketty's book Capitalism, it's just like a fact. if you just leave conditions stagnant, like the rich are going to get richer. Like the people with money find ways to make more money, and it is inevitable. So unless you're having a government regulatory policy or tax, progressive taxation system, and basically getting some of that money back, and certainly with like all the new ways people make money, like why aren't we? If you're speculating on crypto, like why don't you pay a 10% capital gains tax? Why don't you pay 20% or 50% or 60%? Like if you're investing in stupid stuff in our tax system, we'll just never incorporate
Yeah.
anything new. Why would you expect all these rich people who are speculating on stupid shit not to just make tons of money? Like that's just a fact. And then I don't know, to your earlier point about why people are just angry, I feel like that the culture has changed, society has changed in ways that they don't understand. And the way they think about it and the very low hanging fruit that politicians say they'll do and solve everything, like Trump's really good at, like none of those things will actually help it. None of them are systemic changes. None of them will do anything except maybe push the margins in a positive way for someone for a very short period of time. And then I believe, at least my thinking, it'll go and regress back to the mean, right? Like, for example, if we had a bunch of policies that help, some kind of farmer, right? At what point does monetary policy somewhere else or tariffs somewhere else or other countries' trade practices eventually just eat away at it or find some way to compete somewhere else, right? And then at the same time, you have people complaining, why are we giving money to this one industry that employs 600,000 people out of 340 million Americans? Great question. But I don't know. So it's like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like when
Like
you
the
think
coal
about it,
miners are a good example of that. Of like, it's like more
exactly.
teachers than coal miners, but for some reason, every election, every candidate's got to pander to coal miners.
Well, yeah, and then you've got the silly things like, oh, everyone, let's have kids. Kids are so important. Kids are the future. Let's pay all their teachers dog shit and make them have like three jobs. And we're like,
Yeah.
that's, if you're talking about a society actively trying to make life better for other people, I think there are things you would probably expect to see, like a high marginal tax rate on rich people speculating on stupid shit and giving that money to people doing important jobs like healthcare workers, teachers, and like,
Yeah.
like add national security. Okay, let's help poor coal miners in West Virginia and call it national security. I'm not against that. Let's just be real that like we're only helping one segment of the population for very specific political reasons and try to do other things for other
Yeah.
people as well.
It's interesting. I was just reading. I was reading the Wikipedia page about Grover Cleveland, and
As one
he
does.
was as one does. There was a big thing in some of the or in one of his terms as president that people wanted bailouts, and he had this like long answer for why he didn't want to like bail out a certain segment. I think it was like the farmers, and it had to do with like the silver exchange rate because back in that era, like would the dollar would be backed partly by silver and gold together was like the biggest political issue for like several elections kind of. But he wrote this whole thing about how it's like it's not in the public good, and he was kind of like he had some moral personal issues, but he was kind of known for being like super like moral with like the public good and the public bureaucracy and tax dollars. And he was famous as governor of New York and as president for like vetoing a bunch of stuff where he kind of like helped dismantle the spoils system. But yeah, it's just interesting because the farmers are a good example of this, where like Trump fucked over the soybean farmers. So China is not buying any of these soybeans, and they're like finding soybeans elsewhere. So he's like kind of screwing over all of these farmers, but then going to bail them out for like $20 billion, while simultaneously bailing out Argentina apparently for $40 billion. I don't even know. For like quick side note, not to derail us, but like
I'm
the
fine with
president does.
derailing.
Yeah, the president does not have power of the purse. Like, where is this $40 billion coming from? Is this like eventually in the budget, like Congress is going to have to like earmark or approve this $40 billion? Are all Republicans wanting to do that?
Well, I mean, that would probably fall in the same way of like in the 2009 crisis, the Federal Reserve kind of backstopped some European banks to help the European area. And, people said, is this legal? And it's like not clear that it's not illegal or,
That's
and
true.
it
Yeah.
isn't. So, like, on that note, like, of all the things Trump is doing that's legally dubious, this one, for all, I don't freaking know monetary like law or, any of that. So, but it is weird, right? Because you're basically just saying we're going to pick a country that, for whatever reason, their leader has been coded on our side, which makes no freaking sense. And then, oh, he did everything we said was going to be awesome, and he tanked the economy of his country, so we better bail him out. And it's like I don't know why we're helping fix mistakes of random political leaders in other countries who do like kind of objectively silly things, but Yeah, none of it makes sense. And then that's
Well,
like the
Trump's entire foreign policy is helping Russia after doing things that kind of don't make sense and wrecking themselves, you know. He's kind of going against American values and like helping an obvious, you know, badass ally and potential trading partner and EU member of Ukraine.
well, I think American values are shifting a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Um,
yeah. Anyway, I don't understand why we're doing it. Presumably, it's legal. One would hope. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a lot of money. Argentina's like defaulted on every debt they've ever taken out, and it's also
yeah.
it's weird that we're like deliberately we care so much about tariffs to protect American industries, and we're deliberately trying to prop up an industry in another country with a failing government and a failed economy just so they can compete more effectively against our own people, which is already a
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very small segmented industry in America. And I'm all for helping. Like I said, I'm all for helping individual groups of Americans as long as we're being honest about what we're doing and why. And it doesn't make sense why we're gonna, I don't know, throw a rock at it from Argentina as we give them our money
Yeah.
to buy beef.
Switching topics, what did you make of the college Republicans Nazi chat? And
Yeah,
are you surprised at all? And like, what is your response to when they say, "Why does everybody call us Nazis?"
what?
And then their chat leads it's filled with them calling themselves Nazis and like idolizing Hitler.
Yeah. I think it's funny because we've talked about this before, but one of the bad things about having like the Trump era for 10 years is now like every Republican who's still going to be around in 2029 has just been festering at Trump for like
Yeah.
and so like, whether that's a good thing, bad thing, I would argue that there are some bad aspects of it. Like you have people with no shame publicly saying shitty things and they're obviously doing it in private. But I also like it makes me laugh because it's like congratulations, Republicans. All of the Republican grassroots people from age 20 to 35 are just asshole racists. And every one of them on their phone has group chat after group chat with different Republican groups, and they can all basically ruin each other's like public careers if they want to, or they get hacked, and then like every
That's funny.
Republican,
Yeah, that's a good
like,
point. Like, cause
yeah,
like some of the Republicans are getting pissed at the others for like, giving the chats to journalists and kind of blackmailing them or outing them all.
yeah,
That's some
and
good
like
civil warring.
I mean, if some of them like decide to run for Congress too, like, that's a great thing. You're right. You're politically motivated. You're politically involved as a high school student, then a college student, then you volunteer in campaigns, and then you're going to run for Congress. And then everyone who's running against you
Yeah.
has access to the most damning things you've ever said as a, well, and the other thing is weird
Talking
is
about
like,
gas chambers.
yeah. The other thing is like judgment because I saw somewhere they were pointing out like these aren't 20-year-olds. Like some of these people running these Republican college groups are like up in their mid 30s. And it's like, well, that's the same age
Yeah,
I am.
over
And like,
40. Yeah.
yeah, I have much more judgment than to just shit post and say, well, I mean, it's like, I think it's funny because it's not something I would ever do. I don't believe. I think it is probably, even if you did believe that like Hitler was a good person, like the idea that you would say it to other people is kind of stupid. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that because like the World War II generation's really dying off, we're kind of headed for some cultural trouble with the whole Nazi idolization because like when we were growing up like everyone's like grandparents went to the war, right? Not everyone, obviously. Figure of speech, but like everyone's grandparents like went to the war or like lived through it and sacrificed. So like you start spouting off that Nazis are good, you get these old people, like old people like wanting to fight you, and there's this kind of like political consensus based off of like all of the boomers that like or their parents that went to war and kind of like handled saving democracy for the entire world. Like everyone was kind of on the same consensus that the Nazis were bad, fascism leads to no good outcomes. World War, let's try not to have that again. But now we're just like Gen Z, Gen Alpha. It's like a whole generation that just it might as well be the Civil War for us. There's just like no context to like everyday life anymore.
Yeah. It's also like a desensitization to like war, like the fact that 50 million
Yeah,
people died in World War II, and it was really it was really all Hitler's fault. We can
yeah,
pretty squarely pin that on him
yeah,
and no one else. Like
yeah.
I don't know.
What do you think about the claim that people are making that like Churchill was the real villain of World War II?
Yeah, well, it begs the question of like why are you arguing this? Like you're the you're the person on the street corner like saying, "Oh, it was really Churchill who's the bad guy," and it's like, first off, why are you saying this? And like I don't know. The I just don't even know what to say. He was a
Yeah.
democratically elected leader. He helped save Western democracy in Europe. Like, I don't know. Like, that's one of those things. Like, it's hard not to imagine that anyone saying anything related to that topic isn't already just like a shit poster who's trying to stir up shit and who's already kind of deluded and clearly doesn't know history. Like, if you're like a lot of those people try to minimize the Nazis, like obviously attempt to kill all the Jews and like, oh, well, they didn't mean to do that. And it's like, well, what's your point by saying that some of them may not have, like, they still killed a lot of people and like,
Yeah.
yeah,
They're cogs in the machine that like led to 65 million deaths.
yeah. And it's also weird, like the idolization of a country we defeated in war and that we
Oh my
cursed
God,
on.
somebody commented, separate the art from the artist.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Um,
I mean, what do you
any
think about
more?
that? Like, I don't. It's weird. Like, what else do you say about like people criticizing Churchill's a bad guy other than you're just an idiot? Like,
I don't know. The whitewashing, national socialism, from, like then fascism. I don't know. It's like what a weird hill to die on. And I know like Churchill's kind of go, or not Churchill, Tucker Carlson, and then people have like that kind of like far creepy right that like are too creepy and weird for even like mainstream like right wing media to really want anything to do with. Like, what are Alex Jones' thoughts on World War II? Yeah.
why are they relevant?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Any more thoughts on Hitler, or should we move to the next?
No, no more thoughts than Hitler.
uh, yeah. What do you think about Democrats' messaging right now? And should they be campaigning more or better? Like, I don't know who. Like, do any Democrats really inspire you right now?
No, I mean, I haven't been following like certainly any people who are prepping up for primaries at all. I live in Virginia, so I have a governor's race pretty soon that I'm going to vote for, but that's about all I'm following. As far as messaging, like I don't think it really matters. Like I don't know why so many Democrats and political pundits like complain that Democrats messaging right now sucks. It's like, what do you expect? It's like a year away from the next election. They have no power. No one wants to hear from the people who just lost elections. Like that's not helpful. And I don't know. I guess I don't know. It tires me like just hearing these complaints about Democrats who have no power. Why aren't you doing more? Or like, what are you going to say other than like, I believe what's happening right now is bad, and if you vote for Democrats in the future, we will undo a lot of this and do something different. Like, that's enough for me. I don't know why it's not enough for more people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on board with
Right.
that. Like, okay, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, it's interesting being like I think, did we talk about this previously? I talked about maybe in another podcast I did, but the idea that like millennial males have like are quite a bit more liberal than the like millennials in general moved right less this last election than like any other group. Um, and
Well, I
I
think it
don't
was
know. I
in
think
my mid 30s. I think I'm at the point where I really don't care what 19-year-old men think. Like, I mean, it's relevant because they vote, but like,
well, yeah,
are,
yeah, it has to be relevant. You have to think about it because I mean that's what maybe swung the election. I mean, as much as we talk about Democrats sucky and then they lost, like it was like within a percent, wasn't it? Like it was a very close election. It's not like it was a wipeout. Trump biggest win of all time. Like so
no,
dumb.
part of what I'm saying is just like to some extent, like, okay, 19-year-old men or 18-year-old men are the voters with literally the least developed brains in the country. And it's like, okay, well, in 2029, those 15 million 18, 19, 20, 21 year olds will be 4 years older, a little smarter, hopefully a little more wise. I hope that just changes how they vote. Does that mean there aren't another bunch of 15 million 17-year-olds and 15-year-olds right now who in 4 years will vote on stupid stuff? I don't know, but I don't know. I just think like everyone's like, oh, Democrats should go on more podcasts. And it's like, I hear Democrats going on podcasts. And what do they say? Well, I don't like what's going on and I wish I could do more to stop it. But, I don't know. I don't know why there's not more like pressure on Republicans, actually. I talk about this all the time. It's just like if three Republicans in the Senate just said, I'm done with this, they could stop
Yeah,
everything.
change parties,
Yeah.
switch control.
Well, it's not even like change parties. Just be like, I will I guess they'd have to change parties to give control, and I think they're never going to do that. But it's like it's weird to me that like I don't know. I always say this, but like, how many people in America need to really know what's going on and have the, the bravery to do something about it? And we're probably talking about 100 people, right? You've got the president, vice president, 9 Supreme Court justices. You've got a handful of senators, a couple members of Congress. It's not that many people who could radically change what's going on. And like, um, even in the even in the Senate, right? There used to be a time when senators used to say, "Oh, presidents are for 4 or 8 years, but senators are forever." And it's like, why aren't they acting like they have the power they do?
Yeah, right.
Like senators used to say, "Oh, that's great. The president wants to do something, but I'm in the fucking Senate and I don't give a fuck." And like that was
Yeah.
the mentality that they had, and maybe they should go
hmm
back to that. I also don't
Yeah.
understand even like Mike Johnson. Like I know obviously he's kind of a Trumper and will do anything to keep his job, kind of like Kevin McCarthy does. But like there used to be a time when the Speaker of House would just go up to people, have all the cameras there, put their freaking like hand and finger in their other people's face and say like, if you don't vote for this, I'm going to call all the
I'm
people
gonna
I know.
fucking kill you.
No, yeah, not that, not threatening. No, I mean it's just like use your power. It's like I'm just going to tell everyone I know that I'm not going to let any other Republican go on TV, on CNN or
Yeah, yeah.
Fox News if
Or
they
I'm gonna
don't
strip you of
want.
your committee assignment, or
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
no longer the whip.
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't know. And Bill Maher talked about this on his show a couple weeks ago. He's like, hey, to all the Republicans, just say no to one thing Trump's doing. Not
Yeah,
everything. Not you don't have to like, die on every hill. Just say no to one thing, to one
right.
nominee. Yeah. And I don't know why they're not doing
Yeah.
that.
That's a great point. I think, I was wondering, is there anything more like emasculating than Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, like just sitting there with the government shut down and Trump not letting him open it or make a deal or do any kind of like good faith negotiation? Like Trump or Johnson is just like huffed, just watching Trump fuck the government, right? That's pretty, pretty abrasive language, maybe, but I mean, the imagery is right there, right?
Yeah. I mean, this just goes back to the like most people don't actually know what the federal government does. Like there's an org chart you can go to, and I said this before, but you can just click on all the agencies, and these agencies don't have that many people, and they do important things. Like for example, there's all kinds of people who do very specific trade deals. There's all kinds of people who do some specific thing with weather, right? There's people who regulate trains and shit, and like it's all very important stuff. And people think, like it's funny. People have this idea that like the government is just filled with bunch of fat people sitting at desks and stuff in some building in DC doing nothing and collecting a paycheck. And it's like,
Right.
that's literally not how it is. Like, I bet every federal agency is doing way more than anyone even knows. There's a bunch of federal agencies people have never even heard of, let alone know what they do or how it impacts their life. So, like, I mean, I don't know. Just, yeah, I guess I'll defend the, the federal bureaucracy when no one else will. But I mean, I think
Well, I
it's
mean,
silly
it's very
that,
true too. Like that, people always compare like, oh, it'll be more efficient if we privatize everything and let private companies. But as we were talking about earlier, like profits in the big banks, the energy companies, pharmaceutical companies, everywhere is thriving. There are record-breaking profits despite how much pain like regular Americans are constantly reporting that they're feeling. But like the government works at cost, has a transparent pay structure that's like legally set into law by Congress. Like all of these things are very visible, right? Compared to a private company where you don't see anything except maybe like quarterly filings on like, if they're a public company or something. You have all of these middlemen that all want raises and like are basically extracting as much money from the good or service as they possibly can, up to the CEO that is like racing other CEOs to become a billionaire. And so like all the people that shit on the government for being like just, like you said, like lazy people with like doing no actual work all day, just push like maybe pushing a pen, but really just collecting a paycheck. Like that is so the opposite. And like at what point has the government ever been like so funded where people are like, yeah, we need less like teachers. We need less VA doctors. We're just flooded with all these useless VA doctors doing nothing. We Congress gave us too much money and too much staff. We need to send some of them away or fire them. Like when does that happen, right?
well, that's a good point. And it also, yeah, that's 100% right. And I will say it's also an infantile way of looking at the government anyway. So we have the government shut down ostensibly because we don't need them, right? So that's a stupid idea. But then like the infantile way of looking at it is like, okay, then why don't you like actually do some work, figure out what agencies have hundreds of people sitting around doing nothing, and why don't you cut them? Why like I don't like having the government shut down and be like, well, this is good enough. And it's like, why don't you do something about it and find the agencies you don't like or aren't, like, have an actual political conversation about something? Why don't you actually pass a budget or, make a recommendation to Congress to cut something? And I bet
Yeah.
this Congress would do it for you. Like,
They did kind of try to do that with Doge, but I mean, isn't ultimately what we found with Doge that they just like recklessly took a wrecking ball through the government and then figured out, oh shit, we fired all these people that like we actually need because they are monitoring diseases in Africa. They're like doing all the things that make like society not collapse, right? And
Yeah,
like now,
100%.
like no one brings that up. Like, no, is no one going to talk anymore that Elon Musk has like burned out like a asteroid, like hitting the atmosphere, just came in super hot, wasted a shit ton of money, like violated all kinds of norms and laws, fired all these people illegally in ways that like the Supreme Court and other judges have like mandated, get reinstated into their jobs. And then he just like fizzles out, starts beefing with Trump and gets kicked out. And now like is no one going to talk about that? Like just the Sherman-esque trail of destruction he just did. And now the government is shut down, and it's like they're kind of getting their way again. And is it working for anybody? Right? Like we haven't felt the pain yet, but like starting in the next week or whatever, like the SNAP benefits are running out, 30% higher health insurance premiums for like millions of people. Like shit's gonna hit the fan pretty soon. Do you think Republicans will make Trump cave? Kind of. Should Democrats keep holding the line? I guess you can answer that question first before I
Oh,
ask you 10 more.
I was gonna say it's kind of hard because so many people like have so much disinformation. Like I hear tons of people say, "Oh, the Democrats just want to give illegals free healthcare," and it's like that's not that's not it. And it's like ironic because at least from my understanding, right, the money going to illegals is that illegal aliens go to the hospital ER needing life-saving help, and then the government's bailing out rural hospitals to pay for it, right? Like that's what's happening, right? But then like everyone's saying like, oh, they're just straight up giving our money to illegals for healthcare, and it's like there's so much misinformation. Like people act like, oh, this is a Democrat's fault, as though they own any part of Congress or the White House or the Supreme Court right now. And like, I don't know, it's just hard to figure out what to do, and there's so much disinformation. Anything Democrats say, like the other side will just lie about it. So what are you going to do, right? What is your leverage when the other side refuses to believe you have it? What is your leverage when the other side lies and says your leverage is to do something obviously illegal and immoral and stupid that no one would agree with? I don't know, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the whole point is kind of the Democrats don't want to make a deal with Republicans because Trump just doesn't honor any agreement that they make, and he just doesn't do what the law tells him to do. Like he's far like, and that goes back to the whole thing about Congress just like letting the executive branch just walk all over them. Like Congress has passed all of these laws, some of them recently that Trump is just not isn't flouting, not following. Like a lot of the agencies are in law, like a lot of department jobs that they're trying to fire are in law, and like Republicans are just letting Trump kind of be a king, and they're just acting like they don't have any relation to how the government works, or that they're not actually the most important branch of government. I love your point that, like, yeah, it'd be so nice if all of a sudden Republican senators are just like, fuck Trump. These tariffs have nothing to do with the Constitution. That's our power of the purse. Fuck him, you know?
Well, and if they're going to be like cowardly, why don't they go to the Republicans who were just elected this year and say, hey, I'm not going to be up for an election until after 2 years after Trump leaves. Like, I will burn this place down to the ground and
Yeah.
stand up for my values and what I think is good for America. And it's like, I don't like they could at least hide behind people with plausible deniability or at least some leeway to like, not have to worry about the consequences for 5.5 years, which is such a long time. Like, imagine you have a job and you're 85 years old, like most members of Congress are, and you're still afraid to take a courageous stance when you're not going to be up for reelection until you're 90. Like, at what point are you going
Yeah.
to stand up for something you believe in? Right?
Right.
I don't know.
No,
What values?
that's a good point. Yeah. um, I think we started off on this tangent talking about like the Democrats a little bit about like how they should campaign. But I had a couple more thoughts on that. Do you think Democrats are like capable of campaigning well? Like they're so bad at getting attention. And I think about this every time I see a TV ad where I'm like, what the fuck? Why? Like, are TV ads effective anymore? Does anyone even watch commercials anymore? Does anybody pay attention to them? Is it only kind of really like elderly people? Are those the people that works for? But every time I see it, I just think compared to like any generation, like prior to the boomers, like Gen X and down, like no one is really watching TV commercials anymore. Like everyone's online. The younger you go, you're exclusively online. So like, should Democrats just be spending like $1 billion on TikTok, like in the midterms? For the Democrat Party, should they be giving the halfway post $1 million a year to keep making
They
fun
should
of
be doing
Trump? Like,
that.
hey, yeah, Democrats, I'm open.
Yeah. Come on your show that you do
Yeah,
every
yeah,
every
come on my
six
show.
months.
And I guess here's a good point to shamelessly pitch my subscription. If you like my comedy and you follow my humor and Dadaist news, subscribe for $2.50 a month. I'm hustling nonstop Dadaist graffiti news jokes for the love of the anti-fascist game. So if you love what I do, please subscribe and give me a little money so I can spend more of my time just trolling Trump constantly and making jokes about him,
I have a question
smelling
for
like
you.
shit. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
What does Dada even mean?
Dadaism. It's like the Dadaists from like the post World War One, or kind of at the end of World War One. It was like a big European art movement where it was like absurdity for absurdity's sake. Like all these artists that just like a lot of their friends died in the war, and many of them fought in the war, and then the other ones that didn't, like fled Germany or Austria or different places to like Switzerland. And they had this cabaret Voltaire where they would just do like absurdist kind of art pieces. Like one guy would wear
Hmm.
a lobster costume and recite like just gibberish poetry. They kind of started collage. It was kind of the beginning of like German expressionism and that whole art movement. Like I guess it's hard to explain. I have like this pet hobby of like art history, and I don't know. It's just a movement that kind of inspires my absurdist comedy. Um, does that read the
Yeah,
Wikipedia
that's
page? Look it up.
don't tell
Um,
me to
I'm
read.
going to tell you to read more. Um, and I guess not to put everything on Mike Johnson. Going back to that subject, but John Thune is now the majority leader. Do you ever hear John Thune's name? Do you ever think about John Thune? Like, what is he doing? He's at the
Only people in
pinnacle
the
of his
bulwark.
career, probably. What?
I hear his name invoked in the bulwark when they criticize that he has literally nothing to lose and won't do anything to stand up for what
Yeah,
he
right.
believes in. Okay, like that's another thing. It's like, I mean, I understand like the fear that they have that like, oh, someone could hurt my family. And then it's like, well, that's more reason for you to find 10 of your buddies and stand up against violence
Or
together.
find a different job. Like you don't have to be in Congress. If you're going to be a little bitch afraid of like dying for your country, I don't know. Maybe
Well, I mean,
federal Congress is not the job for you.
I don't I don't think that should be a necessary requirement for being a member of
No,
Congress, is being
if
willing to
you are
die.
if you're terrified of violence against you because of your job, and you're going to just watch democracy in America, like the democratic experiment that's lasted 250 years, just end because you're afraid of someone attacking you, you can get a different job. Like there's lobbyists, like you'll
Yeah,
get some kind of investment firm, you'll start a hedge fund, you could flip burgers if it's going to keep you safe and your family safe.
yeah. I mean, that goes back to like the oh, I didn't see his tweet thing like from the first term. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't. And it's like, okay, you're not even really afraid of being like, I think a lot of people probably aren't that afraid of violence, but they're probably more afraid of like Trump tweeting at them still on Truth Social. And like, so you're not even like, I don't know, you're no physical harm or threat of harm. And then you're still terrified that you don't want to have to go through one day and talk to one reporter, ask you about something you don't want to have to talk about. Like, that is the lack of courage, I think, that a lot of members of Congress have. And
Yeah.
I don't know, that's bad. That's my stance. It's bad.
You want to talk a little bit about Trump's national security? How would you describe the Trump Doctrine of foreign policy, if there is such a thing?
The Trump doctrine is like, hey guys, can't you stop? This is really hurting my Nobel Peace Prize campaign. The fact that you guys won't stop fighting.
What do you think about the 8 wars that he stopped?
I
I
think
had a
it's
joke. I had a joke on the halfway post about how he's better than Lincoln because Lincoln only stopped one war, but Trump has stopped eight.
well, if true, that is a very compelling point.
Plus, the 8 wars are like he didn't he. It was what was it? He confused Armenia and Albania. So he's like describing the war he stopped. He's saying the wrong ones. One of them is Israel and Palestine, and like already there's been some skirmishes after the kind of truce on that. Like the ceasefire has been broken several times. Um,
I think
we're still
I
waiting
think
on Ukraine and Russia. Jury's out
yeah,
on that.
been a long first day of his administration on that one, but
Yeah.
I think Trump deserves some credit for like Israel. Like, I think that I
What? That they
that's
did the
what I
same deal Biden wanted, only so much later, so that it could help both Netanyahu and Trump's personal political
no,
goals
I
and
mean,
objectives.
to be fair, though, like I think that there is a certain amount of power that an American president has over Israel and saying, "Hey, you have to stop," and then saying it like you mean it, where they actually do it. And I think that that is something that Biden and the people around him did not do at all. I think they could have easily gotten Netanyahu and Israel to stop, or at least limit civilian casualties at some point during their administration. And uh, Trump's policies sometimes aren't like the best or the most nuanced or the most have the most finesse, but I think like he did kind of tell Netanyahu to stop, and he kind of did. The ceasefire uh,
Do you
shenanigans
think it's going to
bullshit's
stop
going to
though?
be what it is, but
There's there's plans on like developing the Gaza beachfront. There's been some skirmishes in this ceasefire already. Do you think Netanyahu is done kicking out like Gazans from Gaza?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks that like they want to make greater Israel or whatever. You hear about that a lot, and I think they probably mean that. I think the people in Israel want that, or at least a sizable plurality of them. So that complicates things. There's also the complication that Netanyahu can't stop continual warfare, or he'll have to like face trial and possibly go to jail. Uh, the other thing is it is a inherently tricky situation, and I think they've probably exacerbated things way worse than they were 3 years ago, obviously. And I think there's going to be a lingering feud that Palestinians have against Israelis and vice versa for for the next generation or two. So I don't know. I think I don't know. Maybe you disagree, but I would cut Trump some slack on this. He's at least strong armed Israel into being a little more serious about stopping the war. In a way that Biden clearly failed at, and I think that Netanyahu and Israel is more likely to listen to Trump than they were Biden or someone else. So I don't like the fact that like the American government now has no desire to give a shit about any Palestinians anywhere. That's not good. Like I think I think clearing like ethnic cleansing to make like real estate and hotels on the Mediterranean coast and taking that land from Gazans is a terrible thing. But like it's such a shitty, tricky, complicated, historically like convoluted problem. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like, where do you even put blame? Like, if you were to say what is the
Well,
one or two or three
don't you think
things,
Israel killed way more people and did was way more genocidal than they had to be? Like,
oh
isn't it pretty
yeah,
alarmingly destructive and violent and like bad faith,
yeah.
overhanded reaction?
No, I mean I've said that before. I mean the rules of engagement that they exercised from the beginning of the war to the end is completely unethical, immoral, and was wrong. And it was also tactically stupid, I think, for the most part. It was also not helpful to getting their own hostages back. But what I was alluding to was kind of defending kind of what Trump is doing. In that I think that Trump is trying as hard as maybe he can. I think he's actually ironically done more than Biden and his team were able to, and I think that's more positive, right? So I wasn't saying anything about that other stuff. I just a small defense of Trump, I guess, in this way.
All right.
Do you agree? Disagree?
No, I mean, think I probably disagree a little bit. Like, I think Trump, like, giving him the benefit of the doubt on that is kind of absurd. Like, I just think Trump has no attention to details. Like, is it Wickoff that's going around and he's not doing, Wickoff's like way in over his head doing this. Like, just the entire Trump administration. Like, he only wants it's so obvious, it's so surface level that he really just wants the Nobel Peace Prize. And like this is the one conflict that might actually get him it. But like Jared Kushner going around there doing who knows what because he's not a real government official at all. He's not even nominally in the Trump administration anymore. But he's just going around and he's in on all these talks and he's got all these investments from the Saudis. And like I just think whatever deal Trump is possibly pulling off is just going to open up so many more headaches for future presidents that have to deal with the ramifications of totally selling out the Palestinians, like just overlooking their like the wanton like
Yeah.
death and murder and razing of all these buildings, and like they're just going to be a displaced people, and if Saudi Arabia and Egypt aren't going to take them and don't want to have like refugee camps, they're just getting now a smaller sliver of Gaza, which was already like a giant open air prison essentially, with the blockade and like the wall and everything with Israel.
No, it's completely horrible. I think
And
No,
it's
you
bad
make a
for Jews everywhere. I mean, it's
no,
terrible for
absolutely.
Israel. Like, the Western world is like, calling them like war criminals and like, sanctioning them in a way of like apartheid South Africa. Like Jews everywhere have to answer for this. Zionism is like a
Yep.
thing that like is like just tarring and feathering every Jew, especially the Jews that don't give a shit about Israel, hate Netanyahu, hate what Israel, like what their country or, I guess their homeland in theory has done to the Palestinian people. And obviously it like invalidates the decades of, oh, two-state solution that everyone like, pretended to give a shit about.
No, I mean, I agree. I think that that's a problem with like, I think the expectation that one president is going to magically fix the situation beyond just telling Israel the war's over and to stop, I think is probably a pipe dream. I think I think a lot of the problems stem from obviously the fact that the Hamas did a terrible terrorist attack and then Israel went apeshit on them. And I think both, I don't know, it's I think it's such a complicated situation. I guess I was just trying to give a small uh, kudo to Trump for basically trying to end the
Yeah, I
war
guess.
in
In
a way
terms of
that I
everything
think,
Trump's fucking up, like that's not the worst thing he's done.
yeah, I mean, I think to some extent, if an American president really wants to, have Israel stop doing something, I think they can do it. And I think the fact that a Biden administration did not, and Trump isn't doing a perfect thing either. I mean, there's still conflict,
Yeah.
kind of
What do you think
simmering.
about Biden's effort? Like now, all these months later, totally missed opportunity, a swing and a whiff. Were they being too protective of Netanyahu and they kind of enabled all this terrible behavior and didn't really have any stick, just kind of carrots that Israel never gave a shit about?
Well, I mean, I think I think saying that Biden enabled it is probably way too much an indictment on him than he deserves. I don't think like the Biden administration was like specifically or explicitly or implicitly enabling this. I think that they did not want to be in a position of just telling Israel and their government to do something they obviously didn't want to do and forcing their hand and basically
Yeah,
cutting
right.
off all. I don't know. That goes back to the power thing, right? In my opinion, if you're the president and you are probably the only individual in the world capable of telling a country like Israel to stop needlessly killing tens of thousands of civilians, I think that you probably have some kind of moral imperative to get them to stop. And that does not say that Hamas was not obviously deserving of being drone striked, but I don't think hundreds of thousands of Palestinians had to die as well. So I don't know. I just think it's a power thing, and the lack of using power in the Biden administration's case was probably a huge failure.
Yeah.
And having the war go on for what was it, October 23, so 24, so for a year and a half of their administration, when I believe they probably had the power to stop or at least kind of wash America. Like that was our taxpayer money, our military weapons, our
Hmm.
assistance to their military. Like that was the American people helping in a little way, and that's uncomfortable and unfortunate when we could have put a stop to it. That does not actually, resolve or absolve anyone in Israel politics from their part in doing it. Right? It doesn't absolve Hamas and the Palestinian people.
Yeah. Well,
Obviously,
I
not
guess I would have
for
a
any of that.
tougher stance. I think Biden missed an opportunity to just tell Israel like fuck off. Like the amount of shit that they pulled on Obama of like scuttling the Iran nuclear deal and then helping, they were obviously supportive of Trump and did a little bit in terms of like Jewish kind of constituency smoothing and like lobbying of like in 2016 to get Trump elected. But like Netanyahu giving that speech over Obama's head with just the Republicans in plain
Hmm.
politics and kind of so decidedly being more on the Republican side of politics. I think that should be like a bipartisan thing, just a patriotic thing to tell Israel to fuck off, don't divide us in
But
our own country. And
it's
then on
more
top of that,
complicated than that.
well, obviously, yeah, like who knows what we owe Israel, like what they've done for us in the Middle East, like how much we've coordinated with them on our like anti-terror activities all around the region. Like obviously, I don't know what I don't know, but in terms of like foreign policy, like how much do liberals have to like eat shit with Israeli governments, like Netanyahu specifically, getting more and more overtly partisan within our internal domestic politics, on top of getting so much aid for us to screw over the American reputation around the world, and especially in the Southern Hemisphere, of just like totally subjugating and then brutally oppressing the Palestinians and
No, I
or
mean
I
that's
guess
a
the
good question.
Gazans specifically.
Yeah, that's a good question. You're obviously tarred by the people you associate with and how you associate with them. Obviously, Israel's become kind of a pariah. Like you said, that's terrible for
Right.
Israel, Israelis, Jews all over the world. That being said, like, I think, I don't know. I mean, some degree of a war was inevitable. I think Israel could have gone about it very differently, and they could have tried a little harder to protect well, they could have done a billion things differently to protect civilian
Hmm.
life. I think it's unconscionable what they were doing. Um, I think Biden probably, or yeah, I think Biden spent a little too much time giving Israel a blank check, and saying like, "Oh, whoa, don't don't do what we did in Iraq," and he could have just said, "You fucking won't do what we did in Iraq," and
Yeah.
then have that be that, and then similarly, like there's obviously wasted and lost political alternatives to the world we live in, where had we not done something, had Israel not gone in and flattened like most of the Gaza Strip and killed tons of people. Now every family's probably got like multiple members who have been maimed or hurt or killed by Israel, and they're probably going to always hate Jews for the rest of their lives and stuff. And after October 7th, they could have gone about it in a very different way and try to get some support or goodwill towards the Palestinian people, but still meet the objectives of basically going after the Hamas leadership and taking them out, imprisoning them, killing them, and creating some kind of political solution. Which probably won't be a two-state solution given Netanyahu being in power, but it would probably be
Yeah.
more would be better than. I mean, another thing is like how much money has Israel spent? How many like weeks and months have their people who have been fighting the war been away from their jobs and families and stuff? How has it affected Israeli society? And then that's to whatever that answer is, obviously pales in comparison to what's happened to Palestinians. So the idea that like anything about this situation is good. Is probably impossible to justify saying, other than like, I think it's good that after all of that, Trump is at least now starting to say, like, Israel, you have to end the war. I mean, it's a little silly and childish that Trump's doing that because he wants an award, right? Like,
He wants
like
his
a
gold star.
participation award. Yeah, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
stupid, but but at the end of the day, it's like if if you could end the war, if you were like the Nobel like Peace Prize committee and you could end the war in Ukraine today by giving Putin the Nobel Peace Prize, like is that something you'd be willing to do? Would you like I don't know. I guess it's a moral philosophical question more than anything else.
Yeah, right. What do you, speaking of philosophical situations, what do you make of Venezuela and Trump bombing these fishing boats with no due process? And allegedly there's CIA action going on, and Trump just decided to move a carrier down over toward Venezuela. What do you think about this potential regime change, war starting conflict?
Yeah, having and having served the idea that you would just kill people without any evidence whatsoever they did anything wrong, let alone did crime,
Well, they're not even
committed the crime of
prosecuting.
drug
They had
trafficking.
like two survivors, and they're
Yeah,
just letting them go home. Like, if
yeah,
they're such criminals, there's no detaining going on. There's no arresting and prosecuting. Like, there must just be very flimsy evidence that they don't want to have a judge like actually go through and look at the rationale or the legal you know uh, evidence that they're using to just kill people with no due process.
yeah. I mean, it's I don't know what you can say other than it is clearly illegal by our own laws. It is highly
Hmm.
immoral and unethical. You're literally just killing people because you can, so it's kind of sadistic. You don't care about it, so that's even more sadistic. And then you're bragging about what a good job you're doing, so that's like three times as
Yeah.
sadistic.
And
And
it's a
like,
paradox because he wants to be known for stopping all these wars, but he's going to start a war in Venezuela.
yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like, none of it
Yeah.
does.
Um, let's see. Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine really seems to be kind of doing pretty well. They're like drone wall. I keep seeing videos on the drone wall that's like really effective. And now I just saw a report that like the like Russian troops are basically like having to like walk on foot like 30 kilometers to get to the front line. And there's like the whole time they're just being like preyed upon by drones. But like once they get to the front line position, like they're relatively safe. But then like when they do their missions and have to walk back, it's like even more deadly. What do you make of all that? Are you becoming more hawkish on or bullish on Ukraine's chances to kind of kick Russia out of a lot of their territory?
I mean, kick out? No. I think at this point of the war, I think the idea that
They're
Ukraine,
taking more cities and villages, or they're maybe not cities, but they're definitely reconquering a bunch of villages right now.
Yeah, but at this point in the war, while they're building up the capability to shoot missiles and drones further and further into Russian territory and make Russian people feel it, at least like by blowing up oil refineries and stuff, I think. I mean, it's like you don't. Do you want to be the military commander that like 6 months before the war ends, like sends like 40,000 people to go die taking back some village that's been blown up by the Russians, and they have to walk through minefields to get there, and the land's useless because it's been, there's dead Russian
Yeah,
bodies
that's a good
everywhere.
point.
There's thousands of like I think that's bad. I think it's probably not a good idea for Ukraine, which is obviously cares about their people, to sacrifice them, taking land back that's unusable, and that to some extent, like okay, so if I mean, it's really just attrition warfare at this point, and the Ukrainians are doing everything they can to kill as many Russians as they can to make it untenable. It is unfortunate that the Putin government doesn't actually care about the plight of poor people and people dying in war every day, so that he can feel big and strong that a couple square meters on a map is the color of Russia and not Ukraine. So it's really stupid. So am I bullish that Ukraine will take their territory back? No, I don't think that's going to happen. And furthermore, I think it would be stupid for Ukraine to try. I think the goal, or what I would prioritize, is doing whatever it takes to end the war and have the lines be wherever they are right now, because at least they're defendable and at least they're not mined with thousands and thousands of dead bodies, broken tanks, and all that. So I don't know. I'm bullish that Ukraine won't be taken over by Russia, and I think that's good for
Yeah.
Europe's like actually spending more on their military, and they're procuring and buying stuff that they can actually support Ukraine. And I think they are becoming all in trying to protect Ukraine after the war. And I think the other thing is just economic, that like the minute the war ends, you're going to get billions and billions and billions of dollars flowing into Ukraine to make a modern democracy and a modern state that is a bulwark against Russia, with like the third, fourth biggest army in the world, probably the second, third most battle tested army in the world currently. And there'll be a bulwark against future Russian aggression. And I think it's going to really be to Russia's huge disadvantage that they started this war in 15 years, more than
Hmm.
anything else. So, I mean, that's another
Yeah.
thing. It's like that goes back to the power thing, right? Does Trump have the power to say, like Putin, if you don't end the war in 2 weeks, and it's on you to figure out how you save your own goddamn face, because I don't give a fuck. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. You're not going to use nuclear weapons. I know you're lying. You're just going to end the war. You get the territory. We're not going to recognize it for 40 years or something. This is a pipe dream, obviously, but like it goes back to the power thing. How do you get another country to just stop? And it's like I think America has all kinds of ways. We'll say if you don't end the war in a week, we're going to take all of your money right now, and we're going to hand it to Zelensky. We're going to hand it to him personally. He can do whatever he
Hmm.
wants with it. Like, I mean,
That'd be
is that
nice.
something they would care about? Like, and all these European countries are doing it too. Switzerland's doing it. Like, congrats, all of your rich people who've been hiding. Like, all of those penthouses in London, we have identified who owns them, and we're taking them right now, and we're like giving them
Yeah.
to just random people in London. Like, congratulations, and like, you have 1 week and you've already wasted 5 minutes listening to me talk. So good luck.
Hmm.
But that's like the power thing.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know. I mean, I think the American president can probably do that to probably most countries on the planet, and have a credible, legitimate ability to pressure people to do things. Everyone probably but China. So I think the fact that the American
Yeah.
presidents do not do that more regularly
Well,
for
Trump's doing it a lot.
more,
Trump's starting a new trade war with Canada,
I mean,
just willy nilly because of some ad that involved Reagan in an Ontario election or something. If I have my facts right, he's punishing the entire country and economy.
I always joke it's like there's 340 million Americans. Like at least we're all complaining about the same, trans athletes in some small town in some location in some state of America. It's like at least how do you get 3 billion people to care about each other at least a little bit, and to interact with each other in a positive way. And if it involves like getting super butthurt about some local election in some province of another country, it's like maybe that's a good thing for the world. We're all talking about the same stupid shit. It may be stupid, but it's the same stuff, right?
Monoculture kind of
That might be
thing.
the optimistic side of me. And it's like, because people
Yeah.
talk about like, oh, can you believe this happened? And it's like, well, to some extent, like I'm glad that we're all arguing about the same shit. We're not like so disaggregated and living our own lives that we
Yeah.
can't actually relate to each other. Like how many
That's true.
memes could you go on any street in America or Europe or like someplace in Southeast Asia and they go, oh, I get this meme. Like that's kind of cool in an interesting way that never would have happened in the past. So
My last section here is I'm thinking about generation change and how the boomers are getting pretty old. And no offense to any boomers watching, but I do think I have a prediction that age might be a really big factor in this midterm election and hopefully 2028 as well. But I think there's going to be like, there's in Maine is kind of a flashpoint now with that Graham Plattner guy. He's having a little bit of a Nazi tattoo scandal that I guess he's dealing with. But then his opponent, Janet Mills, is
Wait, wait, what?
he had like a Nazi tattoo, but it's like he got it while he was in the Marines or the army or something. And he says he was not familiar with it being a Nazi tattoo, but he was going to change it now. And I guess I don't know. I was at the gym earlier, and somebody was saying that like maybe he did know it was a Nazi tattoo. I don't know what's going on with that. But the alternative is Janet Mills, who's the current governor, and she's like, I had this idea that I think a lot of like boomer politicians might have surprisingly tough primaries, and it might just be age as a factor because you get all the like of the last like 8 people I think to die in office. I think like all of them were Democrats or something like that, and like 5 of them died in like the last year and a half or something like that. So I do think that like we're way overdue for generation change, and But then on the other hand, like Bernie Sanders, who I kind of like, he's going to run again. He like filed paperwork to run again in 2030, at which point he'll be like 92 or something, or 89. And part of me is like, okay, that's too old. I mean, Bernie seems like the power of democracy is keeping him alive forever. But come on, man, like 90 or, plus 90, like maybe it's time to retire. Any thoughts on the gerontocracy of Democrats? Should it be like age should be an issue in the midterms for the primaries?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, just for the sole reason that a lot of other people care too. So if that many people care about this, like,
Well, don't you
it,
care? Like, I mean, like, no offense, but like a lot of, like Chuck Grassley, is he really up with it on
no, no, I
AI
care. Yeah,
and the threat of fascism and
yeah,
the digital revolution that we're now like 25 years into? But like, he was a
yeah. I mean,
fucking old man when that started.
yeah. I mean, I think it's odd. I don't know why these people don't have better hobbies
Yeah.
than.
I
I
mean,
mean,
wasn't
is
Chuck Grassley, wasn't it like 1958 is when he joined Congress? It's like,
probably.
that's 70 years. I could be wrong about that, but I think it was pretty old.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, you got to hand it to like these old people who dream big. They're like, I'm not only am I going to be in Congress, I'm going to be in Congress for 50 years. And it's like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, like we were talking early, despite that, they're still not telling Trump no. Um, and then what do you think Democrats should do for the next, should they go like Zoran Mamdani is a good test case, like he's young and vibrant. Like should Democrats be going Hail Marys with just young candidates that are good at communication and good at attention? Would that backfire? Like to like reference this, like I thought it was a good idea that Kamala Harris like kind of campaigned with Republicans and Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and kind of gave permission structure for like center right, moderate conservatives who are patriotic more than they're loyal to like the partisan party or like the MAGA cult. But
Well, to be fair,
Kamala
the
Harris lost doing that, so I was probably wrong. So should
yeah.
Democrats be doing these like younger, way more progressive, way more kind of social, like liberal kind of leaning politics?
I don't know. Part of me thinks that it should just be authentic. I think like everyone freaking about what strategy they should do clearly just leads to inauthenticity that people clearly see. I think for all of people's flaws, I think things you could say, or for all the good things about Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, I think people clearly thought they were inauthentic, and I think that shined pretty clearly because to some degree they were. I think that probably is to some degree part of the job if you're going to be a politician and pretend that you care about tons of issues that you don't, right? You go to individual states and individual districts in Congress, and they care about some random little industry you've never heard of, let alone thought of, and you have to pretend like you care. You're like, my policies will do this and this. And I think that's stupid. Like they get so specific and hung up, and like, I don't know. I think as someone who's not a political pundit, and you always ask me what I think Democrats should do, and I don't have very strong opinions. I just feel like they should like, marketing 101 is just authenticity. What are the best brands? What are the best companies? They're ones that have
Yeah.
authentic marketing. They don't lie, or at least they're better at hiding it than other people. I think Democrats should just be authentic. And I think like we have this idea, like the Democratic Party is a big tent party, which is great. And then I think we should allow room for individual candidates running in individual places to not care about everything, right? like the
Yeah.
whole bucket of every little pet issue, every little Democratic interest group has. I don't think a guy running in Maine who's like a what is he like a lobster fisherman or whatever? Like
Oyster
why?
farmer.
Yeah, like what do you think that guy really gives a fuck about what happens in like Louisiana? Probably not. Has he thought about it? Never. Like why should he come out and pretend, right? Now that he's running for senator, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I think he should be authentic. I think the Nazi tattoo is probably a red flag. Like, I don't like that. But if he's like, to some extent, like, I don't know. If you genuinely like regret doing something, like you should have some grace because there are a lot of people who don't regret anything and still get ahead.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Right.
the fact that you regret something that was bad and you can credibly say or genuinely believe and genuinely admit that you've learned from it, I think that's a good thing we should overlook that. I think a lot of people have talked about that, like, you know, for there used to be a bunch of Democratic Catholics who were against abortion. Like, that's great. They were Democrats in Congress. They don't exist
Yeah, I think
anymore.
about
You
this
know what I
so
mean?
much with Joe Manchin. Like Democrats were so upset with Joe Manchin, but like Joe Manchin had a Democratic vote and had a Democratic majority thanks to that one vote. I
Yeah.
would much rather have Joe like 100 Joe Manchins in rural red states than have no Democrats and no Democratic majority.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's weird. There's an asymmetry too, where like authenticity on the right means like, oh, I literally text all my friends about how I love Hitler. And authenticity on the left is like, hey, I'm a little uncomfortable with this tiny little issue, but I care about everything else that's progressive. And it's like,
Yeah,
it's so
right.
weird. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have
Uh,
strong advice for the Democratic Party? Like, it's a
yeah,
common
I mean,
question, but it's like, I'm not really a
yeah.
political pundit. And
Well, do
they're
you
just
do you
like,
even consider yourself Democrat? Like, I feel like I am more as like the Democrats are just underwhelming and not doing. Like I feel like with my satire, I come up with all kinds of great ideas like Democrats should be doing, like insults to call Trump, ideas to bring up, trollish, pedantic things you can do to just annoy them in the same ways they annoy. Like Stephen Miller just trolls all of America, and like Steve Bannon, and like even prank ideas and protest ideas. But it's like why like I'm just like kind of a small kind of nobody. Like, why is the Democratic Party not constantly messaging and coming up with fun, creative ways to get attention, troll Trump, do things in public? I mean,
well, that's the issue.
and I guess,
They're always asking people for advice and they get advice and they go, we need
yeah,
to do this. We need this wicket. We need to do this metric. We need to care about this issue. There's 4,000
yeah,
Democrats in some tiny little suburb of this town and they care about this one issue. We have to pretend like we care. And like, we've talked about this before. I think Democrats should just be like the party of states' rights again, in that, like, we're not undoing constitutional amendments to protect people, but like, if there's a school issue, like maybe like why give a crap so much about what schools do in Mississippi, right? Or Alabama? Like, why should the Democratic Party and Democratic interest groups break their back about improving education in some tiny little area of Oklahoma? That makes no sense to me, especially if you're going to lose elections. And like the same thing with like, I don't know, the school's a big one for me because then it gets into like the whole trans thing and like, why can't that be a local level decision? Why can't companies have it just as long as you're not trampling on people's constitutional rights? Like, why can't more things just be done at the state level? And I think that like both sides right now just want a strong Democratic or Republican like dictator president to just magically solve all their problems, and it's never going to happen because no president can just do everything they want. Maybe I mean I could be wrong in a year and a half and this could age very poorly. But like the idea that like I don't know, it's every campaign is like this is the most important election of our lives. This is the most like if you elect me, I will magically make everything better, and that's a stupid way to approach politics. I don't know. I said this a million times. We live in an infantile culture with an infantile population with stupid infantile ideas about how the world works, and I think it is going poorly.
have you seen that meme that's like everybody's 12? And like all of our behaviors, everything we're doing on social media, all the way that like society is collapsing, and it's just like everybody's acting like they're 12. Like certainly Trump is. But
Yep.
go back to my
Well,
question though. What?
no, I was just gonna say it's like that meme with like the bell curve, and it's like the dumb looking guy who has an idea, and then it's like the people in the bell curve, like, oh, I'm so smart, and then it's like the really smart guy, but it's like, in my opinion, like literally everyone is just the dumb guy on the left, and some of them think they're normal, and some of them think they're
Uh,
really smart, but they're all the same.
Going back to the question though, do you consider yourself a Democrat still? Do you consider yourself more liberal, more progressive? Do you want to identify with the Democrats while they're so unpopular and have such toxic branding? And like, in government, like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are not really, you know, giving the leadership you maybe want to see.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I'm just a guy who lives and doing his own thing in his own life. So like, as far as I'm not going to make the Democratic Party part of my identity. Do I? Can I
Yeah, but
envision
will you
myself
vote
voting
straight
for?
ticket though? Do you
Oh,
vote straight
like
ticket though?
absolutely. Well, I mean, why would you? I mean, if you're a normal person who thought like Obama was a good president and you genuinely care about like the well-being of other people and like maybe that it's unfair. What I will say is that like just having a generic idea that I don't know. Some of my ideas get like so oddly specific, and it's like what is my political belief? I believe that the American middle class has created the biggest pot of money ever devised in human history, and we should use some of that money to make people's lives better in a meaningful way
Yeah,
that helps them. And it's like, does that make me a Democrat? Obviously, in the last 80 years of this political history of this country, yes, that makes me a Democrat, and I vote straight ticket Democrat. And do I think a lot of the stuff the right is doing right now is stupid? Yes. Like, do I think like, do I know enough social sciences to understand how some of the world works some of the time in some meaningful way? I believe I have the hubris to believe, yes, I have some general insight that some of the social sciences, like, for example, like I think democracy is better than dictatorship? Yes. Ethically, morally, politically.
yeah,
Do I believe that uh, I don't know, like I don't know. There's a million little things I could say. Like, for example, like, do I understand how tariffs work? Yes. Do I think they're stupid? Like most economists? Yes, I agree with them. And so, like, does that make me a Democrat? Then, like, so be it, I guess. And I guess that's kind of where I feel. But I guess more like in terms of like progressive or moderate, like right now, and I was just joking with Katie about this earlier. It's like all I want is to just go back to like 2016 when most things were working kind of okay and people put in honest 8 hours work to try to make life a little better for people in the government. You know what I mean? Like, and then I don't
yeah,
know, without all the like, you know, for all the bad mouthing and shit talking and shit posting people did about Obama, like he was at least trying to help people. Like,
yeah,
there are things that like looked okay that look worse now. There are things that he did that like people complained about but look way better now, like Obamacare and the fact that like 25 million people use it. Like that's another thing. It's like,
I think that's a
look,
low estimate, but yeah,
yeah, like so like I don't know. I'm a man of the margins. Like, are you going to cut everything because like it makes you feel bad or you don't like it or you personally think it's stupid? Like, no, I'm against all that. Like, I think we should just go back to a government that does some things kind of well and actively tries to do them a little better over time. I don't think we should radically change the government and do X, Y, and Z. Like, I think the a lot of the ideas a lot of progressives have are too much, and I don't think it would necessarily work because of what I think I know about history and like people and the obvious political backlash that would probably create that would undo it all. And I
yeah, the
also don't think we
political
should just
sausage making.
yeah, I just don't think we should cut the government completely and fire tons of workers. Like, and it's like little things, right? Like, do I believe that everything the government does is good? Like, no, probably not. Like, anyone would be stupid to agree with that. Like, do I believe we should put like 800,000 people, predominantly in Northern Virginia, just out of work for no fucking reason and on welfare? Like, no, I think that's a dumb idea. And it's like, again, I'm a man of the margins. If you want to cut the government, like, all right, like bring some receipts, see what's waste, and find a meaningful way to shrink it over an appreciable amount of time with some kind of policy or plan to help the people who fall through the cracks and get hurt by it. And I don't know what that makes me. That was a very long-winded answer, but did any of that make sense in a
No,
coherent way?
yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah. I just wish the Democrats were a little better at politics, but it's like always you can't really fault them because compared to like the conservative media ecosystem going from like Rush Limbaugh and talk radio and just perfecting kind of like partisan news culminating in like Fox News, which might as well be like state media at this point. Like there's just no equivalent on the left, and like leftists don't even want that. It wouldn't even be profitable. Like MSNBC is kind of trending toward the center anyway, because even like I think liberals just are not interested in engaging that like kind of a loyalty based, like team based partisan media. And I think there's a reason like so many people think centralized like legacy and institutional media is so liberally biased. And I don't think it's liberally biased. I just think conservative media has just like really gone off into its own little bubble and kind of closed the doors behind them on their echo chamber a little bit, culminating in certainly, like Trump just phoning into Fox News, just recording what he's talking on the phone of just anything that comes to his head, right?
Yeah, I think it's nuts. They make so much money. Like I I listen to political podcasts and like occasionally, right? And then like while walking my dog, and like there are so many times where I'm just like, God damn it, enough. Like I don't like there's so many political podcasts of people talking about the same shit day in and day out, and it's like I'm done. I don't care. I've heard this a million times, and it's like
Well, you're
I don't
participating
understand.
in one right now.
Well, I mean, we're just talking about whatever the fuck we want. But no, I mean, like, for example, like, who are these people? Like, I don't understand the amount of money in some of these, like, right wing networks. Like, how are they just watching Fox News all day and then tuning into Newsmax and they go, oh, I got my One America podcast. And it's just like, how do you just consume that much media and news that, like, there's that much profit and money in it? To me, that boggles the mind.
Well, you do get a lot of billionaires that back all that. Like when you look at like a Turning Point or whatever, and
And
like,
Russian
a
money, it
billionaire.
turns out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly. Yeah. Like those podcasters that were getting all those Russian rubles or whatever. Something like, what was it? Like $100,000 per episode or something that they published. And then
But I
like
will
they just
say,
didn't know where it was coming from.
yeah, I will say, Russia, if you're listening, we'll take some money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think we have the content that they're interested in.
Yeah, but
I lied. There'll be one more section. I'm just curious about this. Bill
it's
Maher,
Friday night.
had
It's
that.
whatever.
Yeah. Bill Maher had that talk with Trump and like he got shit on for a lot. And I thought it was like everyone wants to shit on Bill Maher all the time. But as I've said before, no other person in the media will have Steve Bannon on and call him like an evil liar to his face. So I think I like Bill
Yeah.
Maher. I understand why people hate him and he's like very annoying and bitchy often. However, I do like his political perspective. And I think he really like, more than most people, doesn't take shit. But like, if you had that conversation with Trump, if you got invited to the White House, what do you think you would say to Trump? What would you bring up? What would you ask him? How would you hold yourself?
I think I'm a mature adult, so I think I'd hold myself fine. What would I ask him? I mean, obviously, if like a random person meets the president, like, are you trying to change the world with that one interaction? I wouldn't try to do that. I don't know.
Would you be
That's an interesting
polite?
question. I'd have to think. I mean, yeah, I'd be polite. Why wouldn't you be polite? I'm
Let's
not
say
going
it's
to
a
hit
two
him.
hour. Let's say it's a 2 hour dinner. You have a drink or two. You get it's only one opportunity to talk to the president. And I don't know. Wouldn't you want to ask some question to like get his reaction on something? Like what would you be most curious about?
I mean, in a non-joking way, I would probably ask about like the aliens and stuff and UFOs. Like if I had
Yeah.
one opportunity just to see, like, but I mean, the problem is like he's been asked a lot of questions and like you kind of know what he's going to answer. So like, I don't know what I would do. I'm not, I don't know. I mean, give me time to think, I guess. What would you, what would you say?
I don't know. I see. I feel like I'm a less mature person. I would be a little immature, and I would probably ask a question that like ends the dinner pretty fast or something. But I don't know. Like, what would be the first question that I would ask him of just like kind of really shooting the shit if he like came on the podcast or something? Um, it might it might have to be like I don't know. Maybe the orange makeup. Like, would that be impolite to be like, dude,
Just a
what's like
little,
the clown? Yeah, yeah. Like, oh, sorry, you missed a spot. Your ear is an entirely different color. Or like,
but why would you do that? Like, does that make you feel good?
yes, it would to embarrass him or make him cringe. I don't know. I guess I'd have to really think about it because yeah, like if you're actually in the room, it would be you'd obviously be awed by like you're in the White House, I guess, and it is the president. Um, I don't know. I guess would he know that all the shit like I write the halfway post and
Oh yeah, you'd
all the
never be
shit I write
invited.
about him constantly?
They'd have to have a
Um,
they'd have a pretty low background check
yeah,
to let
that's
you
true.
speak.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I might be maybe one of the biggest Trump trolls in the entire world. I don't know. At this point, would you say so? Like just like literally like probably like 6 tweets a day on average about him personally.
How many
Two
followers do you
books.
have now?
I don't know, like Twitter is like 95,000, I think I just hit. I got like 30,000. on Substack, maybe 40, somewhere in there. Um, Threads, I'm at like 30,000. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just
I'm great. Now's a good time to plug again. $2.50. Become a paying subscriber to my Substack. Help me do this full time. I am starting to pay a good number of bills with the $2.50 I charge. And I think that's a great price. That is cheaper than a cup of coffee for a month's worth of humor and Trump trolling and poop jokes. I went really viral actually recently. The last 2 days, I went really viral with some tweets about how the crews, demolishing the East Wing, severed a sewer line and flooded the White House grounds with poop and urine, and it got like over a million, like almost like 1.5 million views as of right now, I think. And
wow,
then like, of course, other people like copy and paste my tweet, and it goes viral for them too. So
that's
congrats to
funny.
them.
That's pretty
But
cool.
yeah, I'm starting to get actually like
You're
no like
literally shit posting. You're a literal shit poster.
literal shit poster. It's funny because I'm starting to like almost become on like a first name basis with like a couple Snopes editors where they'll just like message me on social media and be like, any comment about this one that went really viral? So that's kind of
That's really
funny.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
8 years of work, finally making a little bit of waves. Any last thoughts? I think that's it for me. We've been an hour and a half.
Yeah, I don't know. You prepare a little more than I do.
Yeah, it shows.
You get my
Um,
authentic hot takes.
yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, to an episode of Brain Milk hosted by the Halfway Cafe. I'm Dash MacIntyre. Florida man ruins White House. That's a good way to end it. Yep. Florida man did ruin White House. He's actually turning the White House into a Florida house, which is sadly
Yeah.
converting it into Mar-a-Lago, one renovation at a time. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm Dash MacIntyre. Do you want to say
Adrian
anything?
Polk.
All right.
No, I have
See you,
nothing to plug.
everybody. Have a great weekend. Check out the Halfway Post and the Halfway Cafe. See ya.